hospital bed and found her way out of the country. I did not leave immediately because I was debating within my mind between leaving my country and staying. Leaving my country would mean going to exile. And here you are, Professor, claiming that I'm in exile. I'm yet to accept that. Maybe I'm still in denial. And I was persuaded, like I'm still persuaded today, that my fight is in Uganda. That I have to be there to inspire, but most importantly, to embolden the millions that are on ground fighting. But my wife, maybe because she's my wife, and friends, especially in the diaspora, were arguing that they are not dead heroes, and that if I was eliminated, then it would hurt our struggle more than me fighting from afar. And indeed, we had a friend called Alexei Navalny in Russia. He boldly went back to Russia, face to face. He's dead now. So knowing that we were facing a lunatic called Mozi Kandawuga, my friends thought that it was better for me to first exit the country and realign. Make sure we call out the international community, and indeed allow me to use this opportunity to call out the international community, because while this is happening, the United States is in business with Uganda. The European Union and most Western countries are in business with Uganda. So it was important for me to use that voice while it's still there to come and make a case for Uganda, and thereafter I can go and face whatever is there to face. That is when we made the decision to leave our country. Yeah. Was that not your question?
It was our question.
Thank you so much for that answer. So our next question is to do with the mobilization and the strategies that you've been employing in Uganda, especially in the run-up to elections. What's your comment on, what are your thoughts on the status of Uganda's opposition political parties? So, for example, in different countries we've noticed that opposition political parties have built coalitions, and those electoral coalitions have ended up unseating long-serving dictators. So in what ways have you built solidarity with other opposition movements in Uganda and also outside of Uganda in different parts of Africa? For example, Zimbabwe's Nelson Chamisa is an opposition political leader, and Julius Malema, whom I noticed you've also been in touch with in the past.
Thank you. In Uganda, first and foremost, I think I came in as a very abstract factor in the politics of our country. I was not in politics. I did not participate in politics at school. I was never in politics. So I just showed up as a voice. Now to bring you to speed in Uganda it is not politics, it is struggle. In Uganda, there's no opposition or government. There are oppressors and the oppressed. In Uganda, there are no political parties per se. All this that we're talking about is on paper. I'm talking as a person that leads the main opposition party. Which opposition party we formed? Less than a month before the election of 2021. We started out as a loose movement called the People Power Movement. And many times when I'm talking to people, I tell them that we are not a political party. We just have a political party. But we are the liberation movement called the People Power Movement. Now this movement started out after people were frustrated with quintessential politics and politicians. As you will realize, most dictatorships tend to create their own opposition. The good opposition that legitimizes their role. And that is what the case is in Uganda. However, there are people that are anti-status quo. People like Dr. Kizabesige, and now people like myself, and many that I work with. So in Uganda, because it is the oppressed and the oppressors are both in the ruling party and those existing so-called opposition parties. Many of them, their leaders are working within the system, like the so-called Minister for Constitutional Affairs, Norbert Mao and others. They are in bed with the regime, and they are the ones that are legitimizing the impunity and denying political prisoners bail. We have political prisoners that were arrested for only wearing a t-shirt that has the word freedom, and they've been in prison for up to 5 years, and the list continues. So, when we show that, the message that we've been pushing and we continue to push is not a message of this particular political party against this one. We are pushing a message of overturning the status quo, a message of people power, of ensuring that people get a vote. What we want in Uganda is to place power in the hands of Ugandans to make sure that a vote matters, because a vote does not matter. If a vote matters, right now you'll be interviewing me from State House Uganda. So what we're struggling for now is to ensure that democracy reigns again, that people are empowered to vote and for that vote to matter. And this is how we go about it. I'm glad that we have the music. I was fairly popular when I was a musician, a little bit popular, and that helps us push our music in the unorthodox way, because we have Uganda is the youngest population, second youngest in the world after Niger. Our median age is 16. We have very young people, and those young people don't necessarily enjoy the form of political talk. That's why our music, our messages have been going through songs and spoken word and skits and poems and all that. And that's how we mobilize to the present day. We mobilize by telling people the truth, telling them not to look at us as politicians, but most importantly, to hold us accountable. Not to subscribe to any political party, not even the one that I lead, but to subscribe to the truth. We believe that's the best way to hold us accountable and even to immunize us against future impunity and future betrayal of the values that we are professing right now. Oh yeah, thank you. No wonder we are. She reminded me, how are we organizing in Africa with other change-seeking forces? I prefer calling them change-seeking forces than political parties. I don't like that word, political party. The change-seeking forces in Zimbabwe were pretty close to that brother, Nelson Chamisa, who is the leading opposition personality in Zimbabwe. We are in touch with brothers and sisters in Kenya, in Tanzania. Unfortunately, our brother Tundulisu is in prison in Tanzania. Same impunity that was exported from Uganda to Tanzania. We're in touch with our brothers like Gordon Sifuna, Babu Emino, Winnie Odinga, and all those from Kenya. We are in touch with all change-seeking forces in Africa. But I always say that we need to be more in touch, more united, and more aggressive, because the bad guys are working so closely together. So we, the good guys, need to up our game.
I want to follow up on that question of youth, because you've not seen remarkable mobilization of youth in no small part because of your own work. But I was wondering if you could comment on what you see as being the biggest aspirations of youth, and why you think the current regime has been so unable or perhaps unwilling to respond to those grievances. And And since you're a politician, I also want to ask what you see as the most important policy changes that can be put in place in a country like Uganda to address some of those youth grievances.
I'm sorry, Professor. Is it the English or
I'm just curious about youth and youth grievances in the country and why you think the government has been unable or unwilling to respond to youth grievances, and then what you see as policy changes that you would want to see put in place.
Thank you. What you want to go first, Mama?
Why do you think the youth are not being involved in change in their country?
Sure.
In my opinion, I know it's his question, but I like to speak for young people because I work with young people. Young people are a threat. They are a threat to dictatorships because they do not follow the status quo. They want to destabilize everything because they want things to work for them the way they know. And because in most parts of Africa we have dictators whose main job is to keep power by all means, so what they do first is to silence the youth. And now young people do not want to be silenced, and they are loud, and they consider themselves and their futures. So they fight hard. They don't involve them because first of all, they push hard, they're not going to settle for what is less. They want more, and they want better, and they want it now. And the dictators want the opposite. So it is better to keep their club of the elderly, do things the way they want, and keep the young people out. The only young people involved and included in the circle are those who have been indoctrinated and who show signs of keeping things the way they are right now. So it is, they are kept out because they are young and want better, and these leaders do not want to give it. Yeah, that's my opinion.
Thank you. Maybe just to add on yours, Mama. The people in power back home, and largely in Africa, are in many ways disconnected from the realities. These are people that took power at my age, and they've been in power for 40 years and counting. So they have been, completely disconnected from the realities of the masses. Like Bobby said, their main preoccupation is to keep power, not to serve the people. But again, even when they involve young people, they involve either their own children, who don't amount to so much, and then those that are willing to serve their agendas. But most importantly, the young people are disconnected because what is going on back home does not favor them at all. We have the highest level of youth unemployment back home. And if the government is to deal with that, then that means empowering them and getting out of power. So, what they choose is to keep the young people poor so that they can always grapple for the inducements that they give them to sing praises. That is how the regime has been able to subdue young people. And of course, those that have been awakened are only responded to with violence. The government has concentrated on building more prisons back in Uganda, and also to, up the violent levels. You asked what our main policies would be. Well, I could spend the whole day going through that. But again, I would not even be half as eloquent as the many presentations that have been made on the floor of Parliament, in workshops that have taken so much money. But all this is only as good as the paper on which it's written. Nothing implemented. Why? Because of corruption. Our former president, Milton Obote, used to diagnose Uganda's problem as poverty, disease, and ignorance. Well, in my own opinion, not anymore. I believe our problem is corruption, and corruption. We lose 10 trillion shillings, like a third of our tax collection to corruption. Who steals this money? The people around the president. Because corruption is currency now. Every major politician has a corruption scandal. And that is what is used to keep them on leash. Our Speaker of Parliament is banned from coming to the US or the UK or Dubai because of corruption. But she is still the Speaker of Parliament. You know, there was a huge scandal where they stole, not money this time, but iron sheets meant for the poorest people in Karamoja. And this scandal involved the Speaker of Parliament, the Vice President, the Prime Minister, the Minister for Ethics and Integrity, and a whole lot of other ministers where they were acquitted. So we want to deal with that. Of course, as an individual.
The president says that they apologized, they were very apologetic. And he saw that from deep down their hearts, they were sorry. So he forgave them.
Well, how nice he is. The same president actually staged a charity walk, and that was codenamed Walk Against Corruption. But in his speech on that day, after the Inspector General of Government presented a proposal publicly to him, he said, Mr. President, we should have a lifestyle audit of these high-ranking government officials to see where did this person get the money to take the family for this expensive holiday. How does somebody drive a Maybach when we know the salary they get? You know what the president said? You see, you should go slow on those corrupt people, because if you're too harsh on them, they will invest that money elsewhere and not in Uganda. So that shows you that the person in charge of our country is the chief priest of corruption. So corruption is our main target when we take power. But I was saying that as an individual, my heart beats so much for health and education. Ensuring that we have healthy people and awakened people. Back home, we lose 300 children every day, and 20 mothers every day giving birth. And these are the results are avoidable. You know, we have a population where you will find in one parish you're going to find 15 churches and not a single school. That goes to education. We need to awaken our people. We'll go on and on and on. But our main agenda now, I find no reason to talk about the policies, because we've had that again and again and again. We just want to ensure that power is in the hands of the people, so that they can look at two leaders, present their policies, and they say, we want this one or that one, and that choice will actually matter. That's what we want.
Thank you so much for that wonderful. So our last question before we turn over to the general audience is to do with global partners. So we're currently we're seeing significant shifts on the global stage, which include the withdrawal of aid, financial aid to different countries in Africa and other parts of the world. And some of those funds have been pivotal to supporting different movements aimed at democracy promotion and human rights promotion as well. We've been engaging with global partners in different parts of the world, but also here in the United States. You've made a consultation and presentation of submissions to political leaders in Washington, D.C. What are your thoughts on these changes, especially the withdrawal of aid, and what role do you see international partners playing during this period of
Well, I don't know if this is the right time for me to run some community and make it clear that we're not being funded by any Western power, any Western individual, or any Western government. And we appreciate that they let us hide in their country. I say this because the first time I showed up, and I had run not to Kenya, not to Tanzania, not to Zimbabwe, or to America. The regime propagandists started labeling me an agent of the West and neo-colonialism because I ran to the West to save my life. So I thought it's important to mention that and to debunk the dictatorial talk of, oh, now Bobby Wine and all opposition leaders are funded by the colonialists to come and destabilize Uganda government and all that kind of nonsense that they say. But I'm also hasten to mention that until recently, Uganda was getting up to $1 billion in terms of aid and military support. Now this is the money that is actually used to subjugate and oppress our people. We come to this country because we know that we might not be talking just to the administration in Washington, but talking to the ordinary American is equally as effective. Why? Because the people have a voice here. When people call out their leaders to stop supporting something that is against their values, it works. In the 80s and early 90s, before the fall of apartheid, it took a documentary about apartheid to be shown here in America. Before that, Mandela was called a terrorist by Britain. I remember the British Prime Minister then, Margaret Thatcher, defined Nelson Mandela as a terrorist. And America was still in support of the apartheid government until it was put in the face of the moral Americans that actually apartheid is evil and apartheid failed. We find it very necessary to come to these development partners and to tell the Americans, both the administration and the citizens, the administration to the citizens of America, you are actually paying for our debt. You are sponsoring mass murder in Uganda and other parts of Africa. You might not know that, but you are doing that through your taxpayers' money. $1 billion of which is given to Museveni. So you would do good to help us from the comfort of your living room or your car by tweeting about it to ensure that your leaders, your senators, your congressmen are doing know that what is being done is wrong and the American taxpayer knows. But also to reach out to the administration there to ensure that that stops. So that brings me to your question. The funding, the donations, the aid. I will tell you that the aid that is being given to Uganda is not doing what you and ordinary Americans think. It is used for regime survival. And regime survival back home means killing people, means subjugating people, means abusing human rights, means abusing democracy. And America has laws, it has values that it stands for. You have the global Magnitsky, which can be invoked. So we come here not to pose off as people that know, but at least we know a little bit of the tools that you can use to help us stand for the same values that you guys stand for. What brings us together as citizens of the world, as the international community, are values of democracy, rule of law, and human rights. Why don't you evoke them? I remember a while ago, well, I will not go there. Oh, why don't I go there?
Go there.
Mama said I go. But my main point here is that we are not asking the Americans to come and save us. No. We are only asking them to stop sponsoring our oppression, to disassociate with it. We appreciate the aid that we have been given. But please, condition that aid. Put conditions of respect for democracy on that aid. I met a brother from Arua. When I was in Arua for a political rally, I was shot at. My car was shot at and my driver was killed. The gun that was used to kill my driver is an American gun. In 2021, when you see that documentary, it's on Hulu. The police trucks that were running over our supporters. Imagine in a political rally, but because the soldier is so annoyed that this guy that's running against his boss, the president, is so popular, they drive a truck and ran over innocent supporters. Now that truck has a writing, Danish aid, on it. And so, I mean, that is supposed to infuriate any moral mind. That does not happen in Europe. I know that Europe also has some dictators. We know the guy called Lukashenko. And you cannot see an American president or a president from any democracy standing shoulder to shoulder with them. But Mohozi will torture somebody, he will kill somebody and probably tweet about it, and the next moment he's standing shoulder to shoulder with either the American ambassador or an ambassador from a democracy. And it's normal. Why is that normal? Why is it that the level, the standard of human rights in Uganda or any other part in Africa, Eritrea also, why is it that that standard is lower than the standard in Europe? If Lukashenko killed 10 people or 20 people and tweeted, proud of that, the whole Europe would be infuriated. If another European leader did what Museveni does in Uganda, I'm sure it would be in power in its month. So, what is that supposed to communicate to us? Is it because that Ugandan blood is endless? And a mama told me not to go there.
Okay, we're going to open it up for Q&A.
Thank you very much. My name is Godwin. I'm a master of public policy student here at the Goodman School of Public Policy, and I'm originally from Ghana. And
Aquaman.
thank you. Yeah. All right. I have one question for you. Many young people follow your activism from various countries, and I am one of those young people. I came across some other young people that have expressed some form of pessimism towards your activism. And their thoughts have been that when you get to finally leave Uganda, you may follow similar systems and similar systems. I believe some of those young people may be here in this room today. What message do you have for these young people? This may not be their fault, but rather a reflection of their dwindling hope in the government systems across the continent. What message do you have for them today?
Do we take 2-3 questions at once?
I'm sorry if people.
Duncan was closer. Duncan.
I was saying, do we take 3 questions at once, or you just want to answer one?
If you could help, I want to understand the question better.
So, he said, sorry.
I was saying that there are some young people here today that have expressed pessimism towards your activism for
Pessimism.
Yes, towards your activism for the liberation of the people of Uganda. And their idea has been that when you get into power, you may do some similar things that are being done by the current regime. And I am saying that this may not be their fault, but it is because there is dwindling hope in the governance systems across the continent. But once you are here today, some of those young people could be in this room today. What message do you have for them?
Thank you. If I may request that we make it conversational. Yeah, thank you very much. I love that question. Many, not only young people, but many people are pessimistic. And rightly so. You see, I'm 44 now. When General Museveni was my age, he was speaking exactly like I speak, and probably even more eloquent. We have seen so many revolutionaries turn back I was named after Robert Mugabe. He was a great revolutionary. When I was born, he was an amazing person. But see what he turned to. By the time he died, he was a despised dictator. And the more reason why I don't like to be called a politician. Don't trust him. Don't trust me. And I always tell people that I'm not here to liberate you. Let us liberate ourselves. General Museveni treats us like property because every now and then he says, oh, I liberated you. So I'm not here to liberate anybody. I'm here to charge all of you so that we liberate ourselves. When we do it as a generation, nobody, not even myself, will ever come and say, oh, I'm entitled to rule you for life because I liberated you. And I also want you to know, it has been said before, I'm only repeating it, that power corrupts and absolute power corrupts. Absolutely. Power corrupts. Everywhere in the world. You see, even here in America, or Europe, or other countries, the leaders do the right thing not because they are very good people. No, it's because the citizens are not going to take any crap. Exactly. And I can tell you, anywhere in the world, even here in America, democracy is always on the verge of breaking down. It takes strong people. That is why, for us, our agenda is to strengthen our population. So that people want to build strong systems.
Yes.
That is
At 35, you promised me a retirement. That was when we were 35. Now, I will make sure we retire while we still have energy to walk on our feet.
and she's tough.
Hello, my name is Jane Mangwangar, and I'm doing my PhD in political science. But I'm originally from Kenya, from Busia, actually. And I have maybe two very short questions. The first question that I have is, so I met Museveni in Korea, like in 2018. He had come with his people, and we went to see him speak. And people were asking him questions, and when it was time for him to give his speech, he went into this very long speech about colonialism, and he just talked about colonialism. And I think I was very surprised because I felt like they were asking him about, when we go back to Uganda, because a lot of them were international students, they were like, how will we find employment? Or how will we find a future? And the whole conversation and the answer he was giving was about colonialism. And I was wondering, in your perspective, like how do you balance this? Like this conversation of, because we know that the effects of colonialism have affected Africa, and there's still neocolonialism and there's still all these problems. But at what point do you think that our leaders can begin to, take accountability and think about these problems as results of policies they have made? And when are they allowed to talk about colonialism so that it doesn't feel like we are hiding behind the West and blaming the West? Then the second very short question is, in terms of Uganda, I think, and you said you're from Uganda, right? In terms of like the royal family and the church in Uganda and the